let us start now the second part of the lesson Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Here I'll be explaining to you about the Habsburg Empire, the new conservative order which was established in Europe after the Congress of Vienna. You'll be reading about the struggle of the people due to hunger and hardship, which ultimately led to the revolt in Europe. You'll be reading about Romanticism and its effect on the national feeling in Europe, in European countries. German unification, Italian unification, British unification, all will be explained in this module and homework will be given at the end. Now let us read about the Habsburg Empire. This empire was a big empire and it ruled over Austria and Hungary. The people belonging to this empire, they were of diverse regions and spoke different languages. Like for example, the people of Tyrol, Austria, Sudetenland, they spoke German, while Lombardy and Venetia, which was under Italy, there the people spoke Italian. In Hungary, half the population spoke Magyar, and this also was a part of the Habsburg Empire. Few people of Poland in Galicia region, they also belonged to Habsburg Empire. Different type of peasant peoples lived in this Habsburg Empire, which is traced to various parts and regions of Europe. So the only tie which was binding these diverse group was that they had a common allegiance to the emperor. Such a patchwork of regions made the people struggle for nationalism. Let us read now that how the society was formed during this time. There were three different groups of the society. The first were the aristocrats. They were landed aristocracy. They were the landowners. They owned big estates. The language that they spoke was French, and their families were connected by ties of marriage. This society, however, was a very small group. The majority of the population was formed of the peasants. In the West, they were the tenants and small owners in the Western European part, while in the Eastern and the Central European part, they were still cultivating land of the landowners as serfs. The third group, which was the new middle class, this was the group which led to the rise of nationalism in different parts of Europe. See children, you are aware that the industrialization process started from England and later it spread to different parts of Europe. This resulted into a new working class population and a new middle class which were formed of industrialists, businessmen and professionals. They enjoyed various privileges and they enjoyed education. And this was the reason that they wanted to have more rights given to them. They were the leaders of the rise of nationalism in European countries. This middle class wanted more rights to be given to them. So now let us read about the meaning of liberalism in this context. The word has come from a Latin word liber, which stood for the freedom for the individual. Politically, the meaning of liberalism is equality before the law, the government formed by the consent of the people, end of monarchy and all sort of clerical privileges. The middle class wanted to have their own constitution and their own representative government. In addition to this, they also wanted to have a right of private property. See, let us understand one thing over here, that politically it didn't meant that everybody had the right to vote. Women were still not allowed to vote and the passive citizens also were not given the right to vote. So, liberalism in political context meant that only few people had the right to vote. It was against the universal suffrage. In the economic context, the term liberalism stands for the freedom of market. This was the time when people were not allowed to take their goods and capital from one region to another. Different areas and principalities had different weights and measurement system. And as the goods traveled from one region to another, the recalculation of weight, measures, and the currency had to be done. This was a time consuming calculation. And so the middle class, they were demanding an uniformity in weight and measure. They demanded that the number of currencies also should be reduced to only one or two. This demand of the middle class led to the formation of Zollverein. Zollverein was a custom union which was formed in 1834 at the initiative of the largest principality of German Confederation, that is Prussia. Austria was kept away from this confederation and also from this customs union. After the formation of Zollverein, the union abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. This greatly facilitated the movement of goods, people, and capital. The formation of the Zollverein, the new middle classes, they wanted to have more and more freedom. After the defeat of Napoleon, a new conservative order was established in Europe. You have read about the Congress of Vienna, which brought about the old aristocratic families to the throne of various nations of Europe. These conservatives, they believed that traditional institutions like state and society, monarchy or church should be preserved, but they realized one thing, that whatever modernity Napoleon had introduced was good for the nation and for the monarchy. So they retained the modern army, they retained the efficient bureaucracy, the dynamic economy which was started during the time of Napoleon. Whatever reforms Napoleon had introduced was retained by this new conservative order of Europe. This figure is of the Congress of Vienna, which was signed in 1815, and the host of this Congress was the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. The terms of the Treaty of Vienna was like this. The Bourbon dynasty was reinstated in the in France, and whatever territories France had lost during the time of Napoleon were taken away. A series of states was set up on the boundaries of France, and this was to prevent French expansion in future. The main intention of the Treaty of Vienna was to reinstate the monarchies which were thrown by Napoleon. So they were brought back on the throne of the various nations of Europe. A new conservative regime was set up. This autocratic regime did not tolerate any sort of criticism and dissent. We can see here the map of Europe, which was redrawn after the Congress of Vienna. You can see here the red line which shows the German Confederation. A strong state of Netherlands was established in the north of France. Belgium was given to this part. Russia got the Poland, and in south, Austria was extended in some parts of Italy as well. So the intention was that France should be made weaker and strong neighbors were made at the various boundaries of France from all the sides. Because of the autocratic regimes of Europe in 1815 onwards, the revolutionaries, they had to go underground. They could not work because of the fear of repression. And so some secret societies came up in Europe. These secret societies kept on working for the creation of nation states. Their major demand was the freedom of press. One such famous revolutionary was Giuseppe Mazzini. He was an Italian. He was born in Genoa in 1807. He had formed many secret societies. As a young boy, he had joined the secret society of Carbonari. When he was only 24 years old, he led a revolution in Liguria, for which he was sent on exile in 1831. Subsequently, when he was in exile, he also formed two more underground societies. Young Italy and Young Europe. Mazzini believed that God had intended nations to be the natural units of mankind. He was the moral force behind Italian unification. Duke Metternich once remarked about Mazzini as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. All these revolutionary activities led to revolution in various parts of Europe between 1830 and 1848. Let us have some examples over here. What happened in France? In France, there was an upheaval in July 1830. The Bourbon king who was brought on the throne of France, he was overthrown and Louis Philippe was installed as head of France. Metternich once remarked that when France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. This means that all the revolution spread from France to various parts of Europe. We see its result also in Belgium, where an uprising started in Brussels. Belgium broke away from the United Kingdom of Netherlands and became an independent nation. The revolution led to the independence of Greece as well. You are aware that Greece is known as the cradle of civilization and has given to the world such a rich culture. Greece was a part of Ottoman Empire of Turkey, and the Greeks resented this Muslim empire. They were also given sympathy not only by the Greeks who were living in exile, but also other European people and other European nations. For example, Lord Byron, an English poet, he organized funds and even joined the Greek War of Independence. He died at a very young age by fever in 1824. Ultimately, Greece became an independent nation in 1832 and Treaty of Constantinople was signed between Ottoman Empire and Greece, which recognized Greece as an independent nation. Moving over to the new topic of Romanticism, a cultural movement, let us define it first. Romanticism was a cultural movement which sought to bring the people of Europe together through the idea of art, poetry, stories, and music. These also helped in bringing the Europeans together and binding them into a nation state. The Romantic artists and poets, they criticized the glorification of science and analysis, and rather they focused on emotion, feeling, intuitions. So they were the one who also helped in the spread of nationalism in Europe. We are now going to read some of the examples from different parts of Europe. In Germany, the German philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder, he claimed that the real German culture can be found among the common people, das Volk. He believed that folk songs, folk poetry and folk dances are the one where we really find the spirit of the nation. So all these needed to be revived. One such example is the example of the Grimm brothers. They are famous for their fairy tales. They roamed in different parts of Germany, in the rural side of Germany, collected various folk tales and wrote this book because they believed that the real culture of Germany can be found in these. I am sure you are aware that how Poland was given to Russia, and this totally suppressed the Polish culture and the language. They were not allowed to use their language for imparting of education or to use it in church. But the Polish people, they use language to revive the national sentiments. In spite of the Russian suppression, the clergy of Poland continued using Polish language and giving sermons in Polish language. This helped the Polish people to come together. Even through music, like for example Karol Karpinski, he celebrated the national struggle through his operas and music. The Polonaise and Mazurka, the folk dances, were revived to developed among the Polish people the feeling of nationalism. On the economic front, in Europe, this was the time of hunger and hardship. The various reasons which resulted into this economic hardship in Europe were the increase in population. There was a vast increase in population, and in proportion to population, employment did not increase. Rather, the small producers of town, they faced stiff competition from the cheap machine-made goods which were brought from England. The peasants, they also struggled. They were unable to pay the feudal dues and obligations. This led to the revolt in various parts of Europe, and the famous peasants' uprising resulted in 1848. Its major influence was seen in a revolution which started in France. The people, they came on the roads of Paris, barricades were erected. Louis Philippe ultimately had to flee France. The National Assembly proclaimed France as a republic and granted right to vote to all adult males. Even the right to work was given in France. National workshops were established to help the people gain employment. So the result of this hunger and hardship was seen in France, where the republic was established, a very major influence. Now we are moving to the various unification process of Europe. These process you have to understand and learn very carefully. These are very important questions. Now, German unification process can be explained in various steps. First step is the failure of Frankfurt Parliament. Students, in Frankfurt on 18th May 1848, the representatives of middle class professionals, businessmen and artisans, they gathered in a very festive procession. Frankfurt is a place in Germany. 831 elected representatives belonging to this group, they declared themselves as parliament. They collected in the Church of St. Paul. They decided to draft a constitution for German nation, and they decided that monarchy will be retained, but the power of monarchy will be limited by the parliament. The deputies of the Frankfurt Parliament offered the crown on these terms to King Frederick Wilhelm IV, the King of Prussia. But Frederick Wilhelm IV rejected the crown. He said that what is mine cannot be given to me. He joined other monarchs and the big landlords, which are known as Junker in Prussia, and he opposed the elected assembly. Due to the combined opposition of the aristocracy and military, the parliament could not stand in front of them. Even the social basis of parliament was eroded. The parliament was dominated by middle class people, and they had absolutely no support from the workers and artisans. Finally, troops were called in and assembly was forced to disband. This resulted in the failure of the Frankfurt Parliament. We can see here in this figure the Frankfurt Parliament, which was convened in the Church of St. Paul. Women were not given the right to vote during this time, and you can see that they are sitting at the visitors gallery on the top. Right in front you can see the figure of Marianne, the allegory of Germany. The second most important part of German unification is the role of Otto von Bismarck. He was the chief minister of Prussia, a very able diplomat known as the architect of the German unification. You can see here in the figure that he was not only a great diplomat but a great disciplinarian as well. He led Prussia to 3 wars in 7 years with Austria, Denmark and France, which ultimately ended in Prussian victory. These victories finally completed the process of unification of Germany. The third step of the German unification process was the crowning of Kaiser Wilhelm I. He was the Prussian king, and in January 1871, he was finally proclaimed the German emperor. A ceremony was held in Versailles, and on a bitterly cold morning of 18 January, an assembly of the princes of German states, representatives of the army, important Prussian ministers, including the chief minister Otto von Bismarck, they all gathered in the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles and proclaimed Kaiser William I as the new German emperor. Here in this figure you can see the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles, and you can see the crowning of the German emperor. This was in the year 1871, 18th January. Now let us read about the process which led to the Italian unification. You are aware that Italy is a Mediterranean country. It is along the coastal area of Mediterranean Ocean. Like Germany, Italy also had a long history of political fragmentation. It was divided into 7 states. Only one, Sardinia Piedmont, was ruled by the Italian princely house. The northern part of Italy was under the Austrian Habsburg. The center was ruled by Pope, so in effect it was under France. The southern regions were under the domination of the Spanish Bourbon Empire. The second step in the Italian unification process was the role of Giuseppe Mazzini. See, Giuseppe Mazzini, you have read earlier, he was a great Italian revolutionary. He was known as the moral force behind the unification of Italy, but ultimately he also failed and he was sent to exile. With the failure of Giuseppe Mazzini, the mantle to unite Italy fell on Victor Emmanuel II, and under him finally Italy was united. A series of war was fought, and finally Italian unification process was. Of the most important role was played by Count Cavour. He was the chief minister of Italy. He belonged to a wealthy and educated family and spoke French. He was a great diplomat. He made many diplomatic alliances with France, and finally Sardinia Piedmont was able to defeat the Austrian forces in north in the year 1859. Giuseppe Garibaldi, another important Italian revolutionary, also played a very vital role. Garibaldi is known as physical force behind the Italian unification. When he came back from exile, he formed an army of volunteers which came to be known as the Red Shirts. He joined the army of Victor Emmanuel, and in 1860 the volunteers marched into South Italy and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. They got the support of the local peasants and were able to drive out the Spanish rulers. Finally, in 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was proclaimed the King of United Italy, and the Italian unification process was completed. Now students, let us read The Strange Case of Britain, or the British unification process. Was British unification process known as a strange case? The first reason was that it was not a revolution which was done suddenly. It was a long drawn out process. Many types of people live in British Isles like English, Welsh, Scot or Irish. Out of all these ethnic groups, it is the English nation which steadily grew in wealth, importance and power. They were able to influence the other nations of the island, and the unification process was led under them. Let us read the steps of the unification process. Firstly, England at its center was already a parliamentary government and had seized power from monarchy in 1688. In the Act of Union, which was signed between England and Scotland, United Kingdom of Great Britain was formed, and this meant that in effect England was able to influence Scotland. The British identity was completely able to suppress the distinctive culture of Scotland. Everything British was imposed on Scotland, and the Scottish culture was systematically suppressed. Ireland also suffered a similar fate. There was a revolt which was led by Wolfe Tone and his United Irishmen in 1798. It was ultimately resulted into failure, and Ireland was forced to join United Kingdom in 1801. This finally led to the formation of British nation. With this, English culture completely dominated over the other ethnic groups. The symbols of the New Britain, the British flag, which is Union Jack, the national anthem, English language, everything became the symbol of British, and other ethnic groups became subordinate partners. Now we come to another topic, visualizing the nation. Children, you are aware that the concept of nationalism is something which we can feel but cannot express in any solid form. So in 18th and 19th centuries, the various nations, they were portrayed into something by which we can correlate. So they were represented in a form of female figure. Like for example, Britannia was the allegory of Britain. Germania was the allegory of Germany, while Italia was the allegory of Italy. You have read in class 9th that Marianne was the allegory of France. The meaning of allegory is a personification of an abstract idea into something by which we can correlate. So a person is somebody by which we can correlate our feeling of nationalism. You can see here in this figure, the figure of Germania, and she is representing Germany. Whatever Germania is wearing can be symbolized in various attributes. Like for example, the broken chain which is lying at her feet symbolizes freedom. The breastplate that she is wearing with an eagle is the sign of the German Empire, the strength. The crown that she is wearing of oak leaves shows her heroic nature, while the sword she is having in her hand shows her willingness to fight. She has an olive branch around her sword, and this shows that she is also willing to make peace. The black, red and gold color that she is wearing shows the flag of the liberal nationalist. At her back are the rays of the rising sun, symbolizing the German Empire. In the later part of the 19th century, nationalism no longer retained its idealistic sentiments. Rather, it converted into imperialism, that is, making colonies in different parts of the world. The major European powers now wanted to increase their power and their supremacy. This resulted in nationalist tension in Europe, especially in the area called the Balkans. The Balkan is a region of geographical and ethnic variation. It comprises the modern-day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia, and Montenegro. The people who live in these areas are broadly known as Slavs. This resulted into a Balkan problem. Understand this, what is it? This area, the Balkan area, it was under the rule of the Ottoman Turkey. And the people living in these areas, the Slavic nationalities, they wanted to become free from the Ottoman Empire. They are fiercely jealous of each other, and they wanted to have more and more territory at the expense of others. The matter complicated because Balkan also became the scene of big power rivalry. The big European powers like Germany, Russia, England, Austria, Hungary, they all wanted to have a portion of this Balkan. They wanted to extend their control over this area. This intense rivalry among the European powers for trade and colonies finally resulted into a series of war and ended into the First World War in 1914. It started. Here we see a map celebrating the British Empire. It was one of the most powerful empire during this time because of its imperialism. And here we can see Britannia, the allegory of Britain, sitting over the globe, which signifies the rule of Britain over the major continents of the world. Now students, we come to the end of the lesson and let us revise some important terms. Conservatism, we read earlier, it's a political philosophy and stresses on the importance of tradition, institutions and customs. They do not like quick changes. Suffrage means the right to vote. Allegory is the expression of an abstract idea like greed or freedom through a person or a thing. A feminist is a person who believes in women's right and interest and is ready to fight for the women equality or gender equality in social, economic and political context. Now we have some important dates over here which you have to learn and revise very well. 1797, the year in which Napoleon invaded Italy, and it was the beginning of the Napoleonic Wars. 1814 and 15, finally Napoleon met his Waterloo and the Vienna Peace Settlement was signed. 1821, the beginning of Greek War of Independence. 1848 was the year of revolutions in France and in various nationalities. 1859 to 1870, unification of Italy. 1866 to 1871, unification of Germany. 1905, the Slav nationalism, they gathered force in the Habsburg and Ottoman Empire and started becoming independent one by one. Now students, we are moving to the homework. First question. Explain what is meant by liberal nationalism. Choose any 3 examples to show the contribution of culture in the growth of nationalism. Here you have to write about Romanticism and its examples. You have to write short note on Giuseppe Mazzini, Greek War of Independence, Count Camillo de Cavour, Frankfurt Parliament and the role of women. Then you have to explain 2 unification process. You can take any 2. You can take Germany, Italy or Britain or even Greece. Then next question is, how was the history of nationalism in Britain different from rest of Europe? Next question, what were the reasons of the Balkan problem? Trace the process of German unification. You have to define who were the Marianne and Germania and what was the importance of the way in which they were portrayed. So explain the meaning of allegory here and the various symbols used in the explanation of Germania. With this, we are ending the lesson now. You have to revise and learn very well. Thank you, class.